Part 7. A. The file that wasn't supposed to exist. There's paperwork that saves you, and then there's paperwork that buries you. In Allie Carter, she's been searching her whole life for the ones that do both. This ain't about theories no more. This is about proof. The kind that makes people nervous, the kind that gets sealed, shredded, or lost in the system. But Allie, she remembers the folder they said never existed. It started with a whisper. Look in the second drawer. Allie says she was 14, placed in a temporary foster home after another emergency transfer. You know the kind. Cold sheets, burnt toast, staff that clock out early and lock the meds up. She wasn't supposed to be there long. But on the third night, she heard a voice. Not in her head, not from an altar, a real voice. A girl, maybe 16, who had been there longer. She slipped her a note that just said, if you want to know why they keep moving you, look in the second drawer in the office. Bottom file, no label. And just like that, everything changed. The file had her real name and a different one. She says she snuck in that office around 3 a.m., used a spoon to pop the lock. No lights, just moonlight from the window. Found the drawer, found the file. And the first thing that hit her, 2 names. One was hers. The other? A name she'd never seen before, but it was listed under official alias, internal use only. Let that sink in. They gave her an alias for a child welfare record. Why? Because the more she read, the more she saw it. This wasn't just a foster placement. It was a transfer from one program to another. The documents had code words, not descriptions. She couldn't understand half of it. Terms like transit code, echo/red, condition stability, 74%, session trigger, word, marigold, facility assignment, rung 2, handler, rotation window, bi-monthly. This wasn't social services language. This was military-style trafficking data, except it had the stamp of a legit agency, a real seal, signed by someone she later found out worked for the State Department. Why would CPS use military terms? Ask yourself, why would child protection paperwork include terms like handler, stability, trigger word? Because Allie wasn't being placed for safety, she was being cycled for use. I realized I wasn't just a foster kid. I was a file they passed around like a product. And the file? It wasn't even the original. She said it was a summary version. Pages had been removed. You could see the tears. The staples still bent. Whole sections are blacked out. But what was left? Enough to confirm everything she had feared. She took a photo. Then it all went to hell. She had an old flip phone back then. Snapped 3 blurry pics of the most important pages. But by morning, the phone was gone. Not stolen, just missing. And when she asked the staff if they'd seen it, they said, "You never had a phone." That's when she knew she'd been flagged. Ending 7A. Allie Carter found what she wasn't supposed to find. A document with her name and someone else's. A form with words no child should be linked to. And a system that moved fast to erase it all when she got too close. They called her unstable, unruly, delusional. But in that second drawer, she found the first real piece of truth. And now, she's trying to piece together the rest of the puzzle before they lock every drawer for good. Part 7B. The investigator who quit after meeting Allie. I was told to walk away. Not everyone turned their back on Allie Carter. Not at first. There was one woman, quiet, professional, mid-40s. She came with a clipboard, a badge, and eyes that didn't flinch when Allie spoke. For the first time, Allie thought maybe someone was really listening. But this woman, she didn't come from CPS, didn't work for a group home. She was private, independent, contracted to look into facility inconsistencies. But after one visit with Allie, she resigned. She wasn't like the others. Allie remembers the moment she walked in. She didn't talk to me like a broken child. She talked to me like a witness. She didn't ask surface-level questions. She asked about names, sounds, lighting, routes. And when Allie mentioned certain code words from the folder, the woman paused, like she recognized them. but didn't say why. How many doors were in that hallway? That was one of the investigator's questions. Not, did someone touch you? Not, were you abused? She asked, how many doors were in the hallway? Did you ever see the door marked M-4? Did the man who brought food have a wrist tattoo? Were you ever given orange juice before lights out? Detailed, surgical, specific. That's when Allie realized this woman had talked to others. She came back once, then disappeared. 2 days later, the woman returned. No clipboard, just a manila envelope and a face that looked different, tense, distant, almost afraid. She told Allie, I'm sorry, I can't continue this case. I was advised to redirect my attention elsewhere. Allie asked her what changed. She just said, the moment you used the word marigold, I knew this went higher than I was allowed to go. Then she walked out the door, never came back. Allie tried to find her years later. Allie searched for that woman. No record, no agency listing, no LinkedIn, no trace. Like she was wiped. All she had was a first name, Renee, and a single memory. Before she left, she looked at me and said, you're not crazy, but if you want to stay alive, be careful who you trust with your truth. That line stuck because Allie realized something heavy. Even the people who want to help can't. Allie's theory on what happened. She believes Renee found the file too, or worse, she already knew about the program. Maybe she worked on a similar case. Maybe she'd helped another girl who didn't make it. But Allie says once you dig too deep into this stuff, you get a visit, not from cops, not from case managers, from people who don't carry badges. They don't tell you to stop. They just show you what happens to the last person who didn't. And Renee, she got the message. Ending 7. There are people who hear Allie Carter's story and laugh, scroll, dismiss it. But there was one woman, one real investigator, who didn't laugh. She looked her in the eye. She asked the right questions. She saw the danger and still walked away. Not because Allie was lying, but because Allie was telling the truth. And in this world, that's more dangerous than anything. Part 7C. Why her medical records don't match her scars. Allie Carter's body is a map, a roadmap of pain, bruises that healed wrong, scars that never faded, marks in places she don't even remember getting touched. But when she asked for her medical records, guess what she found? Nothing. Not even the basics. No ER visits, no injury reports, no record of the stitches she clearly remembers crying through. Not even a broken wrist that she still wears a brace for sometimes. They either forgot to document it, or they made sure it disappeared. They treated me, but didn't record me. Allie said she remembers at least 6 different medical visits between the ages of 7 and 13. One from when her jaw was fractured, one when her ribs were bruised so bad she couldn't sleep, one when she couldn't walk without pain. But when she requested her file, it looked like a kid who never even scraped her knee, not even a tetanus shot. Not even routine checkups from foster care. I got trauma on my body and they got nothing on paper. Either I'm a ghost or somebody wiped the truth. The story of the wrist. One of Allie's most visible injuries is her wrist. She wears a brace on bad days, live on camera. She says it clicks when she rotates it. Says it got twisted during a restraint when she fought off a man in a facility hallway. But guess what? The hospital she says treated it says she was never admitted. I remember the tile floor. I remember the nurse had a tattoo of a sunflower. I remember signing the paper with my left hand because my right was wrapped. She even described the room layout. But the hospital, no record, no intake form, no doctor's signature, just silence. The ER visits, she was told to lie about. There were times Allie says she went to the emergency room under a different name. The staff used aliases. One time, she says the intake sheet said Reagan T. Another time, she was told to say her name was Kelsey J. Same birthday, different initials, no ID, just trauma, covered in codes. They didn't want me to get help. They wanted me to be seen, patched up, in one return, like a product in repair. Think about that. Your body is screaming, but the system keeps the receipts clean, like the pain never happened. A nurse Tried to speak up. All I remember is one moment clear. She was 12, bruised, barely walking, in a small urgent care building near a foster facility. She says the nurse whispered to her, "You need to tell someone what happened to your side." Allie said she tried, told her the man who did it worked at the home. The nurse wrote something down, but when she came back in the room, she didn't look Allie in the eye. She just said, "Your paperwork's being handled. You can rest now." Allie never saw her again. And guess what? No record of that visit either. The scar she can't explain, but feels. There's one scar on Allie's lower back she never remembered getting. She said, "It's small, circular, looks surgical, but I never had surgery. Doctors say it could be anything, a burn, a biopsy." But Allie believes it happened during one of her blackouts, one of the times her alters took over, when she disappeared for hours. "I think they did something to me. I just don't know what." There's no entry wound record, no report of anesthetics, no note from any facility. Just the scar and the silence around it. Ending 7C. When a victim has scars with no records, that don't mean she's confused. That means the system is complicit. Allie Carter's not just trying to remember what happened. She's trying to prove it did. With a body that's been screaming for help since she was a kid, and a paper trail that was never meant to exist.
I was put into foster care at 13 after my time in the hospital. I thought that everything would calm down from there. I thought everything would be okay. I thought it was going to change, and I was going to be able to go to school and everything would be fine. And that was not the case either. I thought that I was getting into things on my own sometimes. Like I said, people were strategically placed in my life that I never knew who they were. People would walk up to me and say, "Oh my gosh, you look so beautiful all grown up." And weird things like that I don't know who they are. I don't have a picture of me as a child. I don't know who certain people are or who most people are.
Part 7, E. The missing year no one can explain, not even her caseworkers. Every survivor got gaps, memories too painful to recall, blackouts, flashbacks. But Allie Carter? She got a whole year that vanished. Not in her mind, not in her imagination. In the system, no records, no placement history, no birthdays, no doctor visits, no school enrollment, nothing. Just gone. Where was I in 2014? That's the question Allie keeps asking. She's got documents from 2013. She's got placement files from 2015. But 2014? A complete void. No address, no foster record, no home visit logs, no CPS reports. Just a blank folder. And staff who get real quiet when she brings it up. How you lose a whole child for 12 months? Either somebody's lying or somebody's covering up. Her caseworker said it was administrative lag. She reached out to the only caseworker who lasted more than 6 months on her file. Let's call her Ms. L. Ally asked her, "Where was I in 2014? Why can't I find anything?" Ms. L. paused, said it must have been a delay in data transfers between agencies. Sometimes when a child is moved between private and public foster care, it takes time to catch up. That's what she said, but Allie asked, "Okay, then where was I physically living?" And Ms. L didn't answer. She just said, "I'm sorry, I have to go," and hung up. The one photo from that year Ally has one photo from that missing year. She's sitting on a curb, hair longer than usual, shoes too big, wearing a medical bracelet. She doesn't remember the photo being taken, doesn't remember who took it, doesn't recognize the background, but on the back of the printed photo, one word, intake. Written in marker, black, bold, almost stamped, but no date, no facility name, just that one word. The medical file that says she was under evaluation. She later requested her medical records again. After pushing hard, she got a one-page document from early 2014 that said, "Patient under extended psychiatric evaluation. Facility, Code 7B, Region 5. No address, no doctor signature, no diagnosis, no exit date, just that line. She never heard of Code 7B. Looked it up, nothing. She asked around. One person in the survivor community told her, "That sounds like a military code. Region 5 is federal." If that's true, she wasn't in a foster home that year. She was in a government building. The flashbacks say more than the record's ally says when she tries to remember 2014. She sees white walls, metal trays, countdowns, and a light that never turned off. Sometimes she dreams about being walked down a hallway barefoot, no shoes, just socks, holding a folder. She said, "I don't know where I was, but I know I wasn't supposed to remember." And the way her body reacts when she gets close, shaking, sweating, voices that aren't hers start whispering. Something happened in 2014, but the system made sure the paperwork never would. Ending 7E. How do you misplace a child for a year? How do you forget to write down where she slept, what she ate, what doctor checked her vitals? You don't. You erase her. And Allie Carter? She's been digging for that missing year ever since, hoping one day the records resurface. Or her memory will. Part 7. The vault, the hidden hard drive. She says, has it all. Allie Carter been talking for years. But what if I told you? She's been holding back the real bomb this whole time. Not because she's scared, because she's strategic. She calls it the vault. And according to Allie, it's the one thing that makes her too dangerous to kill, too loud, too silence, and too backed up to erase. If they touch me, this drops automatically, Allie says. The vault is a hard drive, encrypted, hidden, password protected, and it's not sitting in her glove box or under her bed. She says it's been distributed, at least 3 copies, all in different locations with different people she trusts. Some she hasn't even talked to in years. One person holds the drive, another holds the passphrase, a third holds the trigger condition. If she disappears, if she gets locked up, if her TikTok account goes dark for 72 hours straight, the vault goes public. What's inside the vault? She ain't dropped every detail, but over the years she's leaked clues. Full names of CPS workers who signed illegal transfers, original intake photos that never appeared in her file, email screenshots between facility staff talking about her aggression protocol, audio of someone she says is a handler giving coded instructions, maps drawn by one of her alters, transcripts of phone calls with court-appointed therapists who ghosted after she named abusers, a list of girls she remembers who disappeared, names, ages, features, last known locations. She said, "Everything they erased from the system, I kept it here, just in case I didn't make it." Why she hasn't dropped it. Yet you might wonder if she really got all this. Why not just upload it now? Because Allie ain't playing checkers. She's been holding the fuse, waiting. If I release it now, they'll just call it fake. If I disappear, they'll have to listen. It's the only thing that makes her unpredictable enough for them to back off. Not out of respect, out of fear of exposure. Who has it? She never says names, never even hints. She once said, "The people who hold the vault are nobodies. You'd never guess them. And that's why it's safe. No influencers, no activists, no celebrities, just real people. Broken people. People who know how to hide when the system hunts." The fake vault incident back in 2023, someone tried to expose Allie, claimed they hacked her and found the vault. They posted blurry screenshots, old emails, random voice clips, but Allie clapped back quick. "That's not the vault. That's a decoy folder I put online to see who'd come sniffing." Sure enough, the hacker deleted everything and vanished. And Allie, she posted a video the next day, dead serious, no hoodie, no altar. She said, "If you thought that was it, wait until they find a real one." She updates it weekly. She's not done adding to it. Allie says she checks in once a week, adds new clips, new survivor DMS, new names, keeps the folder growing. Because to her, this isn't just storage, this is insurance. And every time someone calls her crazy, she smiles. The vault don't care what you believe, it just waits. Ending 7F. Allie Carter don't trust the system. She don't trust lawyers. She don't even trust her own memory sometimes. But the vault, that's the one thing she built with intent. Not emotion, not trauma, strategy. And when the time comes, if it drops, the world gonna know she wasn't just a survivor. She was the last one they couldn't erase. Part 7. And G. What she says the government did to keep her quiet. You think it was trolls, haters, internet clout chasers trying to shut Allie down? Nah, according to her, it was way bigger than that. She says the government didn't just ignore her story. They tried to shut it down. Soft at first, then louder. This part ain't about the past. This part's about how they still trying to keep her voice buried. It started with technical issues. At first, it was little stuff. Her Wi-Fi would cut out mid-live stream, but only when she said certain name. Her phone would freeze when uploading videos with words like tunnel, handler, or facility. She'd post a video, it would go viral in 20 minutes, and then suddenly disappear. She thought it was the app until it started happening on every platform, even when she switched devices. They weren't deleting my story, they were deleting access to it. Then came the in-person surveillance. Ally started noticing things. Same black sedan parked down the block. Men in plain clothes walking past her car, always at night, never speaking. Drones, not kids' toys, real ones. A voice that came through her speaker one night and whispered, "You're going too far." She ain't tell nobody at first. She didn't want to sound crazy, but when it kept happening, she started filming everything, uploading in real time, because if she vanished, she wanted the world to see the buildup. Her emails got flagged as disinformation. Ally once emailed 3 journalists with screenshots from her vault. She sent over redacted names, school district documents, and a timeline of placements. None of them replied. 2 of the emails bounced back. The third, she got a message from the platform saying her account had been temporarily restricted for violating disinformation policies. How's it disinformation if I lived it? She tried again, different address, same result. The government letter that wasn't a threat, but wasn't safe, either this. The one that made her stop posting for a week. She says she got a letter, no return address, just her full legal name on the envelope. Inside, a copy of a court document she'd never seen. Something from when she was 10, sealed, stamped, confidential, not for release. And a sticky note attached that said, "For your own good, let sleeping dogs lie." No signature, no initials, no date, but it had one sentence circled in red. Subject may exhibit prolonged memory retention outside authorized behavioral parameters. Authorized behavioral parameters. Who writes that on a child? Not a social worker, a contractor. When Allie called the Freedom of Information Office, she tried to go official, filed the OIA request, asked for all government records with her name from birth to present. Weeks passed. The answer? No records found under that name or associated aliases. But here's the thing, she never mentioned aliases in the request. So how did they know? That's when it clicked. They're watching what I search. They know who I am, even when I don't. Allie's theory, she was part of a federal program. She said it before, not loud, not often, but clearly. I wasn't just a foster kid. I was part of something sanctioned, something protected. She believes she was placed in testing homes tied to federal contractors. She was assigned handlers trained in behavioral modification. She was monitored not for health, but for retention and resistance. And when she started remembering too much, they didn't try to help her. They tried to disable the broadcast. Ending 7. Gee, most people get ignored when they speak out. Allie Carter, she got followed, flagged, falsely diagnosed, and sent letters meant to scare her silent. She didn't back down, but make no mistake, this ain't paranoia. This is what happens when the system you expose has clearance above the law. And if her theory's right, this ain't just a story of survival, this is a leak. And she's the last witness who still knows where the pipe is broken. Part 7. H. Why she thinks her adoption was a cover for a classified program. Most kids get adopted into new beginnings, new families, new homes. Allie Carter, she thinks her adoption was a new identity, not to protect her, but to protect them, because what she's pieced together over the years, it don't look like love. It looked like a cover operation. The paperwork didn't add up, Ally said when she finally got access to part of her adoption file. It was full of contradictions. Different dates for the same event, parent signatures she didn't recognize, an adoption hearing scheduled 2 months before her termination of parental rights, and most importantly, a different last name scribbled out in pen and replaced with Carter. She said, "It was like someone copy-pasted a backstory together and forgot to fix the timestamps. The family that took her in wasn't normal. She never says their full name, she never doxes, but what she describes, it don't sound like a couple looking to save a child. They didn't take photos, didn't let her go to school right away. Said things like, 'We're doing the best we can with what we were told.' And here's the wildest part. My adoptive mother used to call me by a different name. Like she slipped up, like she knew me before the adoption. And when Allie asked her about it, she said, 'That was your name in the first file. Just ignore it now.' She found the alternate identity. One day, Allie got access to a school system from a city she barely remembered living in. She searched her birth name, nothing. Then she searched the other name she remembered hearing whispered once, Mariah J. Boom. Match found. School records, counselor notes, disciplinary form for non-compliance with adult instruction, and a photo. It was her, same eyes, same scar on the chin, different name, different life. They didn't just adopt me, they renamed me, then rewrote the file. What was the program? Allie says she don't know all the details yet, but here's what she suspects. Her adoption wasn't the end of her trafficking. It was the rebranding, a way to reinsert her into society without the risk of her talking, control her school, her housing, her medical access, keep her monitored without handcuffs. It wasn't rescue, it was repackaging. And the people who adopted her, she doesn't believe they were foster parents. She believes they were assets, placed, trained, paid. The therapist slip up years later in a counseling session. She told her new therapist, "I think my adoption was part of something bigger." The therapist laughed nervously and said, "You're not the first one to say that." Allie stopped him. "Wait, what do you mean?" He tried to backtrack. "Nothing. I mean, trauma makes people think there's patterns when there aren't." But it was too late. Allie heard it in his voice. She wasn't the first, and she wouldn't be the last. Ending 7H, Allie Carter don't believe she was adopted to be loved. She believes she was adopted to be controlled, renamed, reassigned, repositioned like a witness under protection. Except nobody was protecting her, just like everything else in her life. The paperwork was the performance. The truth, buried in the files they say don't exist.
There's an arrest coming. There's actually 2 arrests that are already made. There's a 3rd one coming. I don't know why people are sitting on this. I'm ready. I see that some people are not. I've been ready. A lot of you are ready. Like, let's get this over with.
Part 7, I-8, the court date that was sealed before she even arrived. Court is supposed to be where the truth comes out, where the system protects the child, where records are kept, facts are reviewed, and justice plays out. But Allie Carter? She walked into a courtroom where the verdict was already written, where the files were already sealed, and where her presence was just a formality. She was told to be quiet and grateful. Allie was maybe 12. Another group home, another transfer, another hearing. They didn't explain it. They just said, "You're going to court today. Wear something clean." The staff didn't prep her, didn't say what it was for, just say yes, say thank you, don't ask questions. Even back then, she knew what that meant. This ain't about you. This ain't your voice. This is a signature day. When she arrived, the judge was already done. She got to the courthouse. Wasn't no line, no waiting room. They walked her straight into a side chamber. Judge already there, paperwork already stacked, social worker already present. No parents, no lawyer for her. She sat in a plastic chair while they flipped pages. And when she finally spoke up, "What's this hearing for?" The judge looked down and said, "You've already been reassigned. This is just to close it out." Already reassigned before she walked in. before she knew, before she could even say no. The court order was stamped sealed. While she was still in the room, that's what shook her. They printed the final order, stamped it sealed by court in red ink before she signed her name. She watched them do it. Not after she testified, not after a ruling, before the folder was even handed to the clerk. They were hiding it in real time, like they knew I might remember this moment. She asked for a copy. The clerk said, "You're not authorized to view this document. Ask your guardian." But she didn't have a guardian. That's the whole point. Years later, she asked for a copy. It doesn't exist. Ally filed a request at 19, wanted to see the transcript, the court order, the judge's name, the assignment that moved her to that mystery placement. The reply, "No record found for any hearing on that date associated with this client." But Allie still had the date written in a notebook, still remembered the room, the temperature, the sound of the judge's ring tapping the desk. She was there. But the system says she wasn't. What was that hearing really about? Allie believes that court appearance wasn't for her protection. She believes it was. A clearance hearing for an experimental placement, a transfer approval between state and federal custody, or worse, a retroactive permission slip for something that already happened, like a cleanup, a paperwork sanitization, a false trail. They sealed my fate before I understood the game. Why it matters now, because that hearing, it's the missing link between her adoption being rushed, her records being blacked out, her 2014 missing year, and her identity being quietly replaced. She believes that hearing was when the final decision was made. Don't let this girl speak. Don't let this girl be traced. Don't let this girl survive the system with a story. Ending 7. Most kids walk into court thinking that's where justice happens. Allie Carter walked into a sealed chamber where decisions were made about her without her. The system didn't just fail her that
follows
day.
her through
It
every
erased
file.
her in
Ally
real time
Carter started
in front of
digging,
her face,
file by
with a
file,
red
page
stamp.
by page,
And
each
now
placement,
she's
each
trying to pull
diagnosis,
the
each
seal
court
back
order.
before
She wasn't looking for what they
again.
said anymore. She was looking for who signed them. And that's when she noticed something strange. The same signature. Again and again, different agencies, different cities, different years, but always the same crooked cursive at the bottom, MRS. She asked caseworkers, "Who's MRS?" Most of them had no idea. Some said that could be regional staff. Others brushed it off. Probably a clerical code, ignore it. But Allie kept seeing it. On a psych evaluation in 2012 from a private facility, on a school transfer in 2014, during her missing year, on a 2016 housing order, and even on her adoption finalization paperwork. Same initials, same angle, same weird backward loop on the S. This ain't coincidence, this is a ghost stamp. She found an old employee roster. Late one night, Allie found a PDF buried on an old Gov contractor website, a staff directory from a behavioral program in 2009. Buried at the bottom, M.R. Simmons, Compliance Oversight Agent, Special Placement Division. No photo, no contact info, just that name. She searched it, nothing. She reverse searched the name. Got one hit, an anonymous forum post from someone saying, MRS used to work above the law. Nobody knew who they really were, just that when you saw the signature, it meant the case was locked down. The signature on the invalid medical file. There's one file Allie says proves MRS wasn't just paper pushing. It was a medical clearance form. Said she was mentally fit for group housing, no signs of trauma. Signed off by a state psych evaluator. Except that doctor never saw her, never even existed, according to the licensing board. The only real signature, MRS. They didn't need truth. They needed clearance. This person gave it. Was MRS a real person? That's the million-dollar question. Some people believe MRS was a contractor who approved difficult cases for silent transfer. Others say MRS is just a stamp, a ghost name used when they don't want real accountability. And a few survivors say they saw her. One girl claimed she was pale. Gray suit, no emotion. She watched through a window and signed off without speaking. Another said, I thought she was a lawyer. But no one called her that. They just said, Mom. Allie, she thinks MRS is still out there. The big question, why just her files? Here's the scariest part. Allie connected with over 30 survivors in similar group homes, CPS shelters, and therapeutic placements. Only one other had documents signed by MRS. That girl, she disappeared in 2020 after speaking out. And Allie's documents? It's like MRS was assigned just to her. It's not oversight, it's ownership. Ending 7. J. Most people fear the system. Ally Carter, she fears the ones above the system, the ones who don't need a badge, who don't show up in Google, who don't leave a trace except a 3-letter signature that decided where she lived, what meds she took, and whether she'd be heard or erased. Part 7K. The phone call from a blocked number that knew too much. She was just trying to sleep, hadn't posted in a few days, kept things quiet, low profile, but her phone rang at 3:17 a.m. unknown number, blocked caller ID. She ignored it, rang again and again. Then a voicemail dropped. No message, just static, almost like breathing. So she picked up the 4th time, and what she heard wasn't normal. Ally, we know what you're doing. No hello, no greeting, just a low male voice, calm, dry. Ally, we know what you're doing. You're making noise again. Stop looking into the 2014 file. You're not going to find it. Her breath caught. Nobody but her followers knew about 2014. She never said which file, never said the agency. This wasn't a guess. This was knowledge. She stayed silent. She didn't speak, just listened. The voice continued. We tried to help you. We gave you a new name, a new story, but you're choosing chaos. Keep pushing and you'll force our hand. Then, click, no goodbye. She checked with her carrier. Next morning, Allie called her phone company, asked for incoming call logs from the night before. They said, we don't show any activity during that window. She double-checked her phone history. The calls were there, but the metadata, gone. No number, no tower ping, no trace, voice matched. Something she'd heard before. That's when it hit her. Back in 2016, while at a youth facility, she says she overheard a counselor on a Bluetooth call in the hallway. The voice, almost identical. She stabilized, still no full memory recovery, recommend limited transfer next week. She never forgot that voice. She says it was the same cadence, same pause before finishing sentences, same tone when talking like it's business. Was it real? People online said maybe it was a prank. Maybe someone spoofed the call, but Allie's phone had never been compromised. She keeps her settings locked, uses VPN, rotates devices, and this call didn't sound like a threat for views. It sounded like a check-in from someone who thought they were in control. It happened again, but different. 2 months later, new number. This time it was a text. Vault access ping detected. This number is being monitored. She never clicked any links, but it triggered a memory. In her vault, she had uploaded a hidden document labeled 14keynotes.x. She had sent it to one person, a person who later told her, I opened the document. It crashed my laptop. Whole OS locked. They didn't talk again. Ending 7K. Allie Carter's not scared of shadows. She's scared of the ones who leave no footprints. The ones who whisper like they're doing you a favor while reminding you that silence was part of the deal. Blocked calls, voiceless threats, metadata wiped like it never happened. But she ain't deleting nothing. She just makes more backups. Because that call, it proved one thing. If they watching me, then I'm finally being heard.
Part 7. L. When Allie tried to go silent and the attacks got worse, sometimes the smartest move is to fall back. Go dark, stop posting, stop sharing. That's exactly what Allie tried to do. After the blocked calls, the glitchy live streams, the missing files, she said, I'm done. I'm not saying nothing else, not until I know who to trust. But what happened next wasn't silence, it was retaliation. The first sign, accounts started posting without her ally, had backup accounts on multiple platforms. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all quiet. Until suddenly content started popping up. Short clips from old live streams, edited weird, captions she never wrote, comments pinned with strange links, even posts using a different voice saying, "I'm back." But she didn't post them. She wasn't even logged in. Someone was using my voice like a puppet. They wanted people to think I was crazy or still active. She reached out to the platforms, got nothing but auto replies. Then came the supporters who weren't right. She started getting DMs from new pages, profiles with no followers, but intense energy. "We've been watching. We believe you. Can we meet? Your story changed my life. I'm nearby. Let's talk in person." But when she clicked their pages, stock photos, recent usernames, posts that mimicked her exact language but felt off, she ignored them. Next day, those same fake profiles started attacking her in comments. "Allies lying. She blocked us. She's fake." That's when she realized they're trying to play both sides of me, hero and villain, saint and scammer. Even her allies got scared off. There were people who used to repost her, tag her in videos, say her name loud. But once she went silent, they started scrubbing her content, deleting collaborations, removing tags. One sent her a DM and said, "Sis, I got hit with a copyright strike for a clip we did together. It didn't even have music. It just said your name." Another message, "I don't know what's going on, but I got a warning from YouTube the second I uploaded your live stream, like instantly." These weren't random trolls. This was intentional isolation. They were building a new cage, this time digital. The part. Her vault got corrupted allies' personal vault, a locked external drive with documents, photos, old IDs, scanned files, audio files. She went to back it up, plugged it into her offline laptop. Nothing loaded, just a flashing message. "Invalid directory, file structure compromised." She tried another machine, same result. Allie said, "It was like watching my entire life burn in silence." And remember, she had never posted that vault online. So how did it get hit? She called a cybersecurity friend, someone she trusted from way back. He told her, "This was no accident. This is what we call a silent remote overwrite. They didn't delete your file. They just rewrote the roadmap so your computer can't find them." She asked, "Can you recover anything?" He paused. "Maybe. But if they did it clean, probably not. Whoever this was, they're trained." Ending 7L. You'd think if Allie went silent, the drama would stop, but it didn't. It escalated because silence was never what they wanted. They didn't just want her quiet. They wanted her erased from platforms, from memories, from her own proof. And when she stopped talking, they got louder, pretending to be her, mocking her story, wiping her evidence. But here's the thing. She backed everything up in 3 other places. And now, she ain't running. She's doubling down. Part 7M. The secret ally never told until now. Her real birthplace may be the key to everything. She always told people she was born in Los Angeles. That's what the documents said. That's what the CPS files confirm. That's what the group home paperwork repeated. But Allie Carter just admitted, "That's not where I'm really from." She ain't never said this out loud, not on Instagram, not in the old lives, not even in interviews, because if she did, it would blow the whole thing open. The hospital that doesn't exist. Ally went looking for her birth certificate again, the original one, not the amended post-adoption copy. It listed a hospital name, a birth date, and a physician's signature. All seemed standard. Until she Googled the hospital. No record, not even on old medical directories, not listed under closed facilities, not in archived maps. She tried location databases, hospital registries, and even called a few local historians. The verdict? We've never had a hospital by that name in Los Angeles County. So what was that building? Who forged the document? A memory from a church basement, Ally's first real memory. She says it's not from a crib, not from a home, it's from a basement. Dim lights, white tile floors, long folding tables, men in black suits, and a woman in a nurse's uniform whispering, Be still, baby girl. She says there was a cross on the wall, but no Bibles, just cabinets, stacks of manila folders. I thought it was a shelter, but now I think it was something else, some kind of intake center. And when she got older, she remembered the woman's badge. Saint, Angela Program, New Mexico Division. New Mexico, not California. This shook her to the core. She never lived in New Mexico. As far as she knew, no placements, no transfers, no mentions in any file. But that nurse, that badge, that cross on the wall, it stayed in her head. She asked her adoptive mom once, "Did we ever go to New Mexico?" Her answer, "You're not from there. Stop watching conspiracy videos. Too fast, too defensive." That's when Allie knew something was buried in New Mexico. The old man at the gas station back in 2018, Allie was traveling alone, middle of nowhere heading east. She stopped for gas at a dusty roadside station near the Four Corners area. An old man saw her through the window, walked outside, looked at her long and slow and said, "You from the program?" She froze. "What program?" He just nodded and walked away. Didn't ask for money, didn't explain. She chased him into the side lot, gone, like he evaporated. What was the St. Angela program? Ally tried researching it for months. No hits. Until she found one mention in an archived form from 2007. It was a woman talking about a religious safe house in New Mexico where they placed sensitive children. Quote, "It was supposed to be temporary shelter for kids with high-profile parents or federal custody tags, but rumors say some of them never left." That's when the pieces started clicking. I wasn't born in a hospital. I was born in a holding facility disguised as a clinic. And I think my birth certificate was written after I was already moved. Why it matters now? Because all her timelines are based on the wrong starting point. If she was born off the record, then that explains the blank years, the sealed files, the altered dates, the shadow signatures, the MRS clearance papers. I was erased at birth, not later, not after trauma, from the very beginning, ending 7 million. You ever wonder why someone's whole story don't add up? It might be because the first page was fake. Allie Carter now believes she was born into something, not just adopted into it, a hidden location, a false certificate, and a nurse who said, "Be still," like she was reciting orders, not comforting a child. And the scariest part, she don't think she was the only one. Watch E7. Oh, the key document hidden inside a children's Bible. There's some things you don't expect to find truth in. A lie maybe, a story, a bedtime comfort, but not a classified document. Ally Carter was cleaning out her adoptive grandmother's attic, a place she rarely visited, just old boxes, quilts, dusty photo albums. And one thing stood out, a children's Bible from the late 90s, yellowed pages, torn cover, her name scribbled inside. She opened it just to flip through, thinking maybe it was sentimental, but something made the pages heavy in the middle. She turned to the book of Psalms, and inside, a folded piece of paper, old, crisp, taped between the pages. The paper wasn't just a note. It was a file transfer record. It wasn't religious. It wasn't even handwritten. It was typed, government style, single-spaced, filed with official-looking codes. At the top, child relocation request, directive reference, 7X Alpha, Nest. Her heart dropped because buried in the middle of the document, her name, her birth name, not the one they gave her, not the one she found on TikTok, not the one CPS printed years later, the one she only saw once. In a medical record she was never supposed to access. Relocation approved, psychological observation recommended. Those were the words stamped across the second paragraph. Beneath it, destination unlisted. Guardian role, behavioral monitor, faith-based cover, activated. That last line, faith-based cover. Ally realized I wasn't just placed with any family. I was sent to a house that worked with the system. And the children's Bible was part of the plan, a tool of trust, a cover item, maybe even a message left for someone else. Why was it hidden?
She believes her grandmother never found it. Or maybe she did. Maybe that document was never meant for Allie, but someone else left it there just in case she came back looking. Almost like, if this girl ever learns enough, she'll come here, and she'll need to see this. The final line changed everything, typed in bold at the bottom of the document. Case subject may show signs of memory disruption, compulsions to record, unusual pattern recognition, surveillance protocols engaged, do not alert subject. That's when Allie knew. Her live streaming habits predicted, her obsession with screenshots documented, her trauma responses engineered. They weren't surprised by her behavior. They expected it because they planned for it. She made 3 copies. Immediately, Allie didn't waste time. She photographed every angle, backed it up to 3 encrypted drives, and put the Bible right back where she found it, just in case it was being tracked. If they want it, they'll take the decoy. I got the receipts. She sent the files to 2 people she trusted. Both reported Wi-Fi outages within 24 hours. Ending 7-0. Most people pray over a Bible. Ally Carter, she found her classified past buried inside one, a relocation document that proves she was moved like cargo, observed like an experiment, and controlled under the name of faith. And this paper was never supposed to surface. But it did, because the truth has a way of surviving, even when it's folded between psalms and wrapped in lies.
I've been drowning in my PTSD. I can't sleep. When you know the truth and when you understand what we're talking about, you won't be able to sleep either. When you understand that there's a child being trafficked, brutalized, raped, tortured right now as we speak, you won't be able to sleep either. When you realize how much your government is lying to you about, everything is in your face and some of it you've enabled, you won't be able to sleep. Something happened. I don't know what happened. I was down there for a while. There's certain people that you don't talk about because you just don't. There were certain people that I seen down there, from Beyonce, Jay-Z.
Part 7P. The video she never released until now. The room was dark, just a single desk lamp, camera tilted slightly to the side like she wasn't planning to go viral. She was just documenting, like a diary. Allie Carter looked straight at the lens. No makeup, no script, no background music, just raw silence. And she said, "If you're seeing this, it means I don't care what they do to me anymore." The file was labeled Final Warning.movie. It sat in a hidden folder on a drive named Resets. She never told anyone it existed. She recorded it 4 months before her first viral live stream. She looked different, younger, tired, but focused. "They've been following me for 3 months. First I thought it was paranoia. Now I know I'm being logged." She called out names and one code word. In the video, she didn't yell. She whispered. She listed names, not last names, just initials. T from Phoenix, A from El Paso R, who was at the white van stop in '09, and the one they called Dr. Kill. "I know you were never a doctor." Then she said, "This is for the others. If I disappear, don't go to CPS, don't go to shelters. Go to the project file under the name Light Nest Echo. It's all there." That was the first time she ever said Light Nest on camera, but she never released the video. She said, "I'm not ready to burn it all down yet." Why it was dangerous. There were no cuts in the recording, no editing, no filters, just pure testimony, no influencer talk, no like and subscribe. Just survival. And she showed something too, a page from what looked like a staff manual titled Behavior Conditioning for Pre-Coded Subjects. She zoomed in. It was blurry, but legible enough. Words like stimulus, emotional regression, disassociation triggers, reintegration failsafe, guilt-based obedience. She looked back at the camera and said, "They don't teach you to heal, they teach you to shut down." Why she finally released. It a lie uploaded the video to her website behind a locked page. Then she made a live stream on June 8th, 2025, the day the internet thought she was missing. She said, "I'm tired of people asking if I'm crazy. Watch the footage." Then tell me I'm making this up. The video spread fast in small circles, Telegram, private IG stories, dark web mirrors. Then it vanished, taken down by 3 hosting sites. They didn't even give a copyright reason, just wiped it. But the damage was done. People saw it. And what they saw was not a woman chasing clout. It was a witness trying to make peace with her own truth. Ending 7p, some folks scream to be heard. Others document in silence, waiting for the right moment to strike. Allie Carter was sitting on this bomb the whole time. She ain't want fame, she wanted backup, and this video might be the closest thing we ever get to a confession from the inside. No makeup, no edits, just a survivor who said, "This ain't paranoia, this is memory."
Part 7Q. The ex-foster sister who reached out with proof. Allie Carter always said she didn't remember many kids from her early placements. Most of them were quiet, some were violent, a few, she felt like they were drugged. But there was one girl she never forgot. Her name was Mari, not short for anything, just Mari. Long curly hair, scar under her left eye, used to hum old gospel songs while brushing Allie's hair. She was only in the same group home for 3 months, and then gone. No goodbye, no transfer notice, just vanished until 2025. A DM from nowhere. On a quiet Wednesday morning, Allie opened her inbox and saw a strange message. It said, "I saw you on the live stream. You remember the yellow closet? That's where we hid the green bracelet." Her heart dropped. Because that yellow closet, that was real. A busted hallway cabinet in their old group home. And the green bracelet was something Allie and Mari had made from strips of an old bed sheet and a broken plastic bead. Nobody else would know that, nobody. Mari sent a file. Allie replied instantly, "Where are you? Are you okay?" Mari said she was fine, but using a burner phone, didn't want to say where she lived, said too many people were watching now. Then she sent a zip file. Inside, 3 audio recordings, 2 blurry photos, and a PDF labeled Medieval Killed 2009 PDF. The audio files, the recordings were grainy, clearly done on an old flip phone, but the voices were clear enough to recognize tone and pain. Recording 1 was a group home staff meeting. You could hear them discussing how to handle subject children with behavior spikes after emotional stimuli. A woman says, "Just reset her. You know the drill. The protocol says we log and sedate." Recording 2 was a clip of a child, maybe 8 years old, crying. And in the background, a male voice saying, "She doesn't know her name yet. Let her keep thinking it's Allie until we transition her." That was the moment Allie said she dropped her phone. The PDF was worse. It was a medical evaluation form from 2009 stamped with the name Dr. Kill, the same name Allie mentioned in the unreleased video. But here's the kicker. The subject was listed as Mari C. And in the notes section, subject responds well to indirect control via Allie C, recommending parallel placement to observe bonding effects. They were tracking the friendship, not helping it, studying it. They placed us together to test emotional leverage. The photos. Mari also sent 2 blurry photos. One was a group of kids lined up against a brick wall. Allie's in it. No smiles, just wide eyes and sagging shoulders. The second, a staff member holding a clipboard with the word lightness clearly visible at the top. Mara captioned it, "This is what I kept. I don't know how long I'll be safe." Allie tried to call her again. No response. She tried twice more. By the 3rd day, the account was deleted. Phone, disconnected. Email, bounced. Instagram handle, gone. It was like she evaporated again. Ending 7Q. Allie's not the only one who remembers. She's not the only one who saw the pattern. Mari was there too, a quiet soul carrying the same scars, the same confusion, the same forbidden truth. And even though she's vanished again, she left proof they ran experiments, proof they falsified names, proof they used kids as emotional test subjects. So now the web just got wider. Part 7 RR. Why they're afraid of Allie speaking in church. Allie Carter never saw herself as a preacher. She barely trusted churches anymore. She said religion was weaponized against her, not used to heal her.
But one Sunday morning, early 2024, she walked into a small desert church outside Vegas. No cameras, no press, and when the mic was passed around for open testimony, she stood up. The church went silent. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't even say her name at first. She started like this. I was raised by the state, but God raised me through the storm. And now I remember everything they tried to make me forget. That's when the energy in the room shifted. People stopped fidgeting, phones went down, heads turned, because it wasn't a testimony, it was a warning. She spoke for 9 minutes. Then a man in a suit stood up. Allie began to describe the group homes, the missing records, the sedation routines, the underground room where the nurses wore badges with no names. She even mentioned Light Nest out loud. Then something weird happened. A man in a dark suit who no one knew stood up in the back row. He walked out, slowly, calmly, and never came back. Later, a deacon asked Allie, "Was that your family?" She shook her head. "I don't have any family left that wears suits to church." The pastor asked her to come back, but quietly. That same night, the pastor contacted her. He said, what you said touched people, but you might want to tone down the government stuff next time." Allie asked why. He said, "Because the last time someone talked like that here, we got a visit from folks that don't wear badges but ask too many questions." The hidden cameras in the choir loft. A week later, Allie returned to the church just to sit. She felt drawn there, needed peace, but something was off. She looked up at the choir loft and noticed a small black dome tucked in the corner. It wasn't there before. She asked the music director what it was. He said, "Security. We had a donation for safety upgrades." Allie asked who donated. He said, "Anonymous." She didn't come back after that. Why her testimony scares them. It ain't just what she said, it's where she said it. See, churches like that, they don't get media coverage. They don't get live streamed, they don't get monitored until someone like Allie breaks the script and starts telling the truth in real time. Because when people hear her live, with no editing, no algorithms, no comments section, they feel it. They remember things. They question what happened to their own cousins, their sisters, their neighbor's kid that got taken away. That's what scares the system. Ending 7 or Allie Carter ain't just testifying online. She's testifying in real life. And when she walks into a church, not with a Bible in her hand, but a history of survival in her voice, the whole damn atmosphere shifts. They ain't afraid of her live streams. They afraid of her waking up the room, because when one person says it, people call her crazy. But when she says it in a church, it sounds like gospel.
Part 7. S. The vault folder labeled "Don't let Allie see this." It was deep in an old email inbox, one she hadn't touched in years. She used it back when she was still in the system, mostly for school, caseworker stuff, and job training programs. But one day in early 2025, Allie decided to log in again. No real reason, just a gut feeling. Something told me to look where I used to feel invisible. She started scrolling through unread messages. Most were spam, forgotten passwords. Then she saw one. Subject line: "Intake error. Do not release to subject AC." Sent in 2017 from an encrypted CPS domain, flagged for deletion. But somehow it slipped through. She clicked it, and it opened a Google Drive link. The folder was titled "Vault Case, Restricted, Observe Only." It had 4 files inside. Case notes, final.x, behavioral patterns _ac.pdf, confidential-transfer-form.pdf, readmefirst.txt height. It was that last one that hit her hardest. The note said, "Don't let Allie see this." The text file was short, no greeting, no sign-off, just a cold message. Subject has shown increased intelligence and data recall. Avoid triggering memory loops. Do not allow her access to the vault folder, especially not patterns AC. If accessed, wipe device remotely and alert internal admin. Supervisor 11. Allie stared at the screen for a long time. She said, "That was the moment I stopped doubting myself. If I was crazy, why build a file warning people not to let me see it?" The behavioral PDF meth was a psychological dossier.
It wasn't written like a medical record, it was written like a field report. She was described as Subject AC exhibits above average memory retention and trauma-linked cognition. Tends to fixate on pattern disruptions, coded language, and symbolic anomalies. Responds negatively to sedatives. Observed for rebound aggression. One line read, subject demonstrates self-documentation tendencies. May begin public exposure under assumed belief of activism. Use social discrediting if necessary. That one broke her heart because that's exactly what happened in 2023. The transfer form was even colder. It showed that Allie had been approved for a second relocation in 2017, but the form was never filed. It listed her as a candidate for reintegration with reprogramming via faith-based therapeutic care. Outpost 6. Outpost 6? She'd never heard that name before, but the zip code on the form matched a Christian boarding school she briefly stayed at for just 2 weeks. She left that place saying they didn't want to help me, they wanted to erase me. Turns out she was right. How she knew it was real. The files weren't screenshots, they were originals, with edit history, date stamps, IP tracking logs, internal staff comments. One comment said, should we forward to Light Nest Archive? Another replied, no, too hot, keep local. Ending 7 says, when someone builds a folder and titles it, don't let Allie see this, you already know it's a confession. Not the kind signed by hand, but the kind that proves they knew what they were doing. They knew she was smart. They knew she'd remember. They knew she'd start asking questions that couldn't be answered in courtrooms or TikTok comments. They tried to lock away the truth in a vault. But she found the key. And now, we all know what they never wanted her to see. Part 7, T. What the Supervisor 11 code name really means. You remember that vault folder? The one with the warning that said, don't let Allie see this? Well, that file didn't just expose secrets, it named names, or at least one name cloaked behind power, Supervisor 11. Now, most folks would brush it off like it's just internal language, a random admin ID. But Allie Carter, she don't move like that. She took that label and started digging. Where she first heard it back in 2014, she says she was in a CPS van. They were transferring her to a new placement. Driver had a walkie-talkie. When dispatch asked for verification, the voice on the other end said, confirm. S11 cleared this case. Proceed. She never forgot it. S11. At the time, it sounded official, just letters and numbers. But now, after seeing it tied to her behavioral report and that creepy vault message, it had weight. It wasn't a title, it was a handler. She found the code again. In old foster system logs, Ally remembered a loophole. Some state documents, when uploaded to certain outdated portals, leave behind debug data, hidden metadata that wasn't supposed to be seen by regular users. So she used an old account tied to one of her placement facilities, logged in, went through 200 plus backend forms, and then, boom, Supervisor 11 showed up again, this time under a login history on a file labeled Special Circumstance Youth, Trauma Loop Candidates, Tier B Clearance. The system showed it was accessed 14 times between 2011 and 2017 from a private IP tied to a shell server hosted in Maryland. And that hit different because that's where Allie says she was during her most unstable years, bouncing between safe houses and special placements. Who was Supervisor 11? She tried to cross-reference it with court files. No luck. Tried digging through LinkedIn, internal staff rosters, Facebook archives. Still no match. Then she made a call to a former CPS worker who quietly supports whistleblowers. We won't name them here, but they've been working off the grid since 2020. Ally told them about Supervisor 11. They didn't even blink. The reply? If you're talking about who I think you are, that wasn't one person. Supervisor 11 is a shared identity, a cover used by off-record handlers, a shared ghost. Let that sink in. Supervisor 11 wasn't a name. It was a mask worn by multiple people to sign off on illegal transfers, experimental placements, unrecorded therapies. You know how corporations use anonymous admin for top-down changes. Same thing here. except this was being used to approve where kids got placed, sedated, and erased. Nobody ever had to be held responsible because Supervisor 11 don't exist on paper. Allie's big realization. And she said, that's why the file warned them not to let me see it. Because once I saw S11 again, I was going to pull the thread. And the more she pulled, the more things unraveled. A girl named Ariel who went missing in 2013. Her final placement was approved by Supervisor 11. A boy named Darian who had identical trauma patterns as Ali, his transfer records were signed S11 override. It was a pattern, a network of invisible decisions made by a ghost. Ending 7T, most people fear the devil they can see, but Ali Carter, she fears the ones who hide behind systems, behind codes, behind clearance levels, behind labels like Supervisor 11, because that code don't just represent a person, it represents a machine built to erase names, rewrite past, and test trauma like it's a science experiment. But the test subject survived. And now she's turning every code into a confession.
Part 7. You. The foster kid who said, they made me forget Ali Carter. In 2023, Ali was digging through old files from her time in CPS custody, mostly school records, placement forms, random medical slips. And she kept seeing a name, Jalen T. She didn't remember him at first, but the name kept popping up, not in the system, but in handwritten notes. One said, Ally and Jalen, always together. Monitor for codependency. Another, separate ally from JT before trial week. High emotional bleed. And then it hit her. Jalen was her first real friend in the system. They shared everything until one day he vanished. They were both in a group home on the outskirts of Tucson. Jalen was quiet, smart, older by a year, and always carried a little red notebook. Allie says he used to tell me stories about his mom like she was a superhero, and he used to call me Captain AC like I was a comic book character. They shared snacks, bunk beds, secrets. But one day, he was gone, no goodbye, no transfer notice, no explanation. Ally asked the staff. They told her he never existed. Years later, he found her online. It was 2025. Ally had just gone viral for the third time. She was on a live stream talking about her CPS placements when someone commented, "Do you remember Captain AC?" At first, she thought it was a troll. Then came the DM. "They made me forget you. But I remember now, they called you a liability." Her hands shook. It was him, Jalen. His story was terrifying. Jalen said that a week before he vanished from Ali's life, he was taken to a hospital. They told him it was for a routine checkup. Instead, he said they gave him a memory wellness shot, something that made his mind foggy for days. He said, "I forgot your face, your name, everything. But I kept seeing that notebook, and I didn't know why." He was then placed in 3 more homes. Every time he mentioned Allie, staff told him there was no Allie Carter. Even his caseworker said, "You're confusing her with a book character. Nobody named Allie Carter was ever at your placement." He didn't remember until he heard her voice again. Jalen said something cracked when he watched her live stream in 2025. The way she spoke, her phrases, the way she touched her temple when she got emotional. It triggered something, like a glitch in the system. Suddenly, all these memories came flooding back. That bunk bed, your laugh, the way you cried when you lost your shoelaces. Shoelaces. Allie remembers that exact moment. She cried for 3 hours because they were the last laces from her mom's old shoes. Jalen had tied them around her wrist and said, "Now it's a superhero band." No one else knew that story. What this means, if Jalen was telling the truth, and Allie believes he was, then this wasn't just trauma-induced amnesia, it was induced forgetfulness, erasure, whether it was drugs, psychological conditioning, or a mix of both. They scrubbed her out of his mind. And if they did it to him, who else forgot her? How many other kids bonded with Allie only to have her deleted from their memory like she was a virus? Ending 7, they ain't just tried to silence Allie Carter. They tried to erase her piece by piece, person by person. They made Jalen forget
but memory don't stay buried forever. All it took was her voice, that raw, unfiltered cry for truth, to bring a part of him back online. And now, every memory they tried to delete is becoming a witness. Part 7, V. Why they called her a memory virus in internal memos. Most people think when you age out of the system, your file closes. But Allie Carter, she kept her own file. She documented everything, every placement, every missing item, every strange rule, every van ride. And in late 2024, when she got leaked screenshots from a former group home worker, she found something no child should ever see. A memo sent from admin@ellensystems.org, subject line, subject AC identified as memory virus, use standard social discrediting protocols. Allie stared at the screen in silence. Her first thought, I'm not a virus, I'm the update they're scared of. What the memo said. The full text was short but loaded. Subject AC has reemerged across digital and in-person spheres. Patterns indicate contagion-style memory reactivation among formerly placed individuals. She fits parameters of a Category 4 memory virus, potential to unlock suppressed trauma in others. Recommend deployment of Protocol 7A, online discreditation, mental instability framing, content flagging. That was it. But it confirmed what she always suspected. They weren't afraid of me lying, they were afraid I'd help other kids remember the truth. What's a Category 4 memory virus? She dug deeper, reaching out to an ex-tech contractor who used to work on software for behavioral tracking firms that contract with CPS facilities. He said the term memory virus is internal slang. It describes a person who causes trauma recall in others, especially those who were chemically or psychologically blocked. In other words, Allie Carter triggers memory glitches. She shows up, and suddenly other kids start remembering things they were told never happened. That's why they labeled her a threat. Protocol 7A, this was the most disturbing part. According to the same source, Protocol 7A is used on whistleblowers, especially minors. It includes flagging their accounts on social media platforms using third-party abuse reports, amplifying negative comments through dummy accounts, encouraging diagnosis rumors, bipolar, delusional, etc., feeding controlled influencers, concern narratives like, she needs help, don't share her stuff, it's hurting her. Sound familiar? That's exactly what started happening to Allie after her second viral video. Suddenly, people who claimed to be fans started turning. Even some platforms silently shadow banned her name. Why it backfired? Here's the twist. Trying to make Allie disappear did the opposite, because the more they pushed the unstable label, the more people went, hold up, if she's so crazy, why do y'all keep trying to shut her down? More survivors started coming forward, more files started leaking, and guess what phrase popped up in 2 other documents from unrelated facilities? Memory virus, different kids, different states, same warning. They were all carriers of truth. Ending 7. You ever hear of a virus that spreads hope, that spreads truth, that breaks the silence like it's cracking glass in a quiet room? That's Allie Carter. They tried to scrub her out. They tried to scare her offline. They gave her a code name like she was some kind of digital threat. But all they did was prove she was real. And now the virus is spreading, not to infect, but to wake people up.
Part 7, W, the therapist who quit and sent Ally a confession letter. Allie Carter ain't never had much faith in therapists, not because therapy's bad, but because in her world, therapists weren't there to help. They were there to document, to report, to redirect, to medicate. But in 2024, a letter showed up in her P.O. box. No return address, just one line on the envelope. To AC, I'm sorry I didn't speak sooner. She almost threw it away, but something told her to open it. Inside was a 3-page handwritten confession from a licensed trauma counselor who worked inside one of the residential youth programs Allie was sent to in 2016. The letter began with a warning. If you're reading this, it means I finally got the courage to tell you the truth. The therapist said her name was Melissa, not her real name. She made that clear. She couldn't risk putting her family in danger. She said she worked at a youth behavioral center just outside Annapolis, Maryland, and she remembered Allie Carter vividly.
"You were never crazy." Melissa wrote, "You were one of the only ones who asked real questions. You kept noticing when routines changed. You memorized our badge schedules. You watched which staff entered without scanning their IDs." She admitted that Allie was flagged early on, internally labeled RPI, Red Personality Index, meaning too observant, too resistant, too vocal. Melissa said most kids were sedated into compliance. You were the only one who got angrier when we upped the dosage. The breaking point. Melissa described one session where Allie refused to speak, just stared at her for the entire 45 minutes. At the end of the session, Allie said one sentence, "You know what they're doing. You're just too scared to stop it." Melissa said that shook her to the core, and because she did know, she had seen kids be restrained for emotional volatility when they just cried about missing their mom, be transferred overnight with no paperwork, be drugged without parental consent, be filmed during therapy for training purposes, but the footage never used for training. And worst of all, she was told never to get too attached. Why she left, Melissa wrote, "I left the job after one of my coworkers tried to lose your file before an audit. She laughed and said, 'That girl's too slippery. If we don't vanish her records, she's going to burn this place down one day.'" That was the moment Melissa knew. They weren't trying to heal kids. They were trying to silence the ones who remembered too much. She left within a month, moved to a private practice, stopped taking referrals from state facilities, but she carried guilt every year. Every time Allie went viral, she saw it and she stayed quiet. Until the letter. The ending words. The letter ended like this: "I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope my words give you power because they always said your voice was dangerous. And now I finally understand why." Allie's reaction. Allie didn't cry. She smiled. Because, for once, someone from the inside wasn't gaslighting her, wasn't calling her broken, wasn't calling her a liar. For once, someone said, "You were right all along." And that hit harder than any apology ever could. Ending 7 do top you. When someone on the payroll admits the system was sick, that's not just validation, that's evidence. Melissa's letter may never hold up in court, but it holds up in the court of public memory. And sometimes that's the court that matters most, because it means the truth ain't just coming from Allah anymore. It's leaking through the cracks of every wall they built to contain her.